For those of you, we can do like Henriette did in the morning. I'll ask you a question. How many were here in the morning? Half, 60, 70%. Okay, 80. All right. So you have already heard who I am. My name is Klaus Klitholm. I come from European Investment Bank. I'm coordinating the LNR projects on mobility. I've been doing that for about a year, with the bank for about 3 years. And I'll be moderating the 3 sessions in the afternoon on mobility. Henriette was very lively and enthusiastic, also talking about the GVD project from Amsterdam, and she promoted it as a world premiere and the first mobility projects. That's true in a sense because in 2016, also luckily based on Henriette's hard work, the bank and the commission were able to sign an agreement specifying a budget and resources for mobility, which was a new thing. And the GVB project was the first contract that we actually managed to sign under that agreement. So in a way, she's correct. Yes, that was the first mobility project. However, and that's what we're going to spend the afternoon on, we have actually done a number of mobility projects under the historic Elena scheme since 2009, but focusing not necessarily on the criteria that we are using now for projects like Amsterdam, but other criteria in terms of energy efficiency, energy reduction, and so on. You're gonna, if you stay with us the whole day, you'll meet 3 of them. The first session is from my good friends here from Barcelona, and then we have another case from, I don't remember the order anymore, but from Aarhus in Denmark and from the Brabant region in the Netherlands. So that's it for today. And we're going to do it like in the morning. There'll be like half-an-hour presentation from the 2 gentlemen here. And then 15-minute session on question, answers, comments, whatever. And don't be shy. Just raise your hand and say whatever question you will have. And then there'll be a break, and then we do it again a couple of times. All right? I think we will just go on. So let me just briefly introduce Josep and Ismael. Is it okay for me to use first names? I think we are friendly enough to say I can say your first name and not your family name. The 2 gentlemen are from TMB in Barcelona, which is the public transport company from Barcelona. And we did a project some years ago. What was it, 5 years now? 6 years, 7 years, long time ago. So the 2 gentlemen will tell you about the project. And basically, this has to do with urban transport and transferring from diesel operations to zero emission. And the reason for us finding that interesting was, we're going to hear more from Josep, that the idea was basically if there was a business case for retrofitting the existing fleet instead of necessarily buying new buses. So that was the original idea, which we found interesting from an innovative point of view. So that was the starting point. We moved in different ways down the road, but please, Josep, the floor is yours, and you can tell us about your experiences.
Thank you.
You want to use this?
Yes, please. Hello, good afternoon. We are going to talk about the electromobility. First of all, we will talk about what was the last steps to the electromobility that we are now. We divide the presentation in both. One is what and why we are going to do and why we are doing our projects. For the name will be the sustainability. And then the presentation from my colleague, Director of Finance in TMB, talking about what we are doing with the money that we need for all these projects. 2 questions before to start. Some presentations before talk about all the stakeholders in the city has to be very involved and work together. But it's very good that work together in the same company. Okay, from the finance department, in the case of TMB, there is absolutely a perspective of the innovation, and not only from the point of view of the technical issues of the department, but from the technical one in the part of Ismael. And the other thing to start to this project is to recognize the effort from my colleague, Isabel Criado, who was working a lot in the project, Elena projects with Klaus, in the past, and without this help, it was impossible to achieve the results of the ELENA projects. Three principles, basic principles from the point of view of a bus operator. I think the same from Amsterdam. He will, she has talked about was more or less these three principles. We move people with the same quality or with the principle of mass of service. We contribute to the pollution, but a few. And what is the objective for the next years is the model split, how we pass the people from the private transport to the public transport. Where we are now, we are a commitment from our mayor. In some months ago, our mayor declared that our objective is to have in 25 all the buses, all the purchases in buses will be electric. Okay, this is no resources joined to this declaration. Okay, but it's not like Amsterdam, for example. And the other is another step for 2013. But this is important. It's important. The commitments from the politician is absolutely important. The idea is to talk about what is the project that we are moving now. This is the umbrella project. This is what we are doing with our network, changing our network from the old network that is coming from the bus, the trains, the trams from 19th century to a new network. We are changing absolutely the way to transport the people. We transform the network from the sea to the mountain in an orthogonal perspective, from the sea to the mountain and parallel to the sea. And this means to change more than 20 bus lanes. Nowadays, this project is, we have changed 16 bus lanes, and we will achieve the next in the next 2 years. The results of this project is absolutely good for our clients. This is the results of the last days. We start here with this new network, this orthogonal network, and this is the movement of our passengers. We mentioned the last projects. Okay, we're talking about the past. Very fast, but we're talking about the past. This was the most important projects in our fleet, that we changed our buses to the best, the cleanest fleet in Europe. With 400 buses, we changed their filters, not to reduce the particle filters that is common in Europe, that we introduced the NOx filters, and we reduced the NOx in all the fleet. And then was a very ambitious project in TMB that was transform buses, diesel buses, from diesel to hybrid, and the same from CNG buses to hybrid. This project was supported by the investment bank with the ELENA project. And nowadays we have 83 hybrid buses more in our fleet. Our complete fleet in TMB is more than 300 buses. And we continue buying this kind of technology in the next years. Here there is this 30% of the increase of the price of the buses for we're going to talk about the electromobility in TMB in our experience and the next future. The electromobility starts with European Commission boasting with the European project SEUS, with the different cities in Europe, with the demonstrations buses for different bus manufacturers. Barcelona participated in 2 projects. Was these 2 projects, one with Irizar buses and the other with Solaris buses, with the 2 different kinds of technology. not technology. Technology is the same, but the uses is absolutely different. With these buses, all the energy is on the bus, and with these buses, the energy is more or less 30 part of the standard buses, and then we charge the buses in both extremes. What is the conclusions of these projects? The conclusions is that in Barcelona city, with this kind of buses, because of the temperature during summer, it's not possible to, these buses last in the normal service 18 hours, but with the electric technology, it's not possible to use these buses during summer. We only last 12 hours. In winter, 15 more or less, but not the 18s that we need during the summer. And the other buses can last all the day because they charge in both terminals. Nowadays we are implementing this final solution. They are running since 2 years ago, but we are finishing the complete system. But now we have only 2 buses of each technology. Ismael will talk with more detail about the features, but in general, when we are talking about TCO, with all the parameters that we no control, like the price of the fuel or like the price of the diesel, the electricity, etc. When we are talking about the acquisition price is more or less 12 times of the diesel bus. When we are talking about the maintenance, that the cost of the batteries is more than 100 euros thousand. When we are talking about consumption with all of these not fixed parameters, this is a famous directive from the European that weight a few with the price of the total cost of ownership. And then we add the infrastructures, the price of the infrastructures, more or less, with all these no new things. The price is more or less the same when we are talking about 15 years that we count in our TCO. But the problem, Ismael will talk about this, is the acquisition price. This is our fleet nowadays. We have a CNG fleet is more or less a third part of our fleet, more than that. We are increasing the hybrid buses and the diesel buses that is reducing because we are going to buy hybrid buses nowadays. Okay, because the electric buses is growing, you will know now the prediction. Okay, we have a plan. This is our plan for the next years. The plan for us, when we are talking about the contract program. We are working, the investment is for 4 years. And this is more or less, it's not fixed everything, but more or less there is a plan for these 4 years. The idea is that reducing the diesel buses, keeping the CNG, because we have a fleet, a depot, the capacity of the depot is limited with CNG, and we will renew them. We increase the fleet of hybrids, this is the only increasing of the technology, and we increase the electric buses. The idea is during these years to buy 11, 10 buses, more or less, different size and different technologies, and depending of what I said before about the uses of the big buses or small buses. And we have a plan for the next years, but this is not a plan. No, sorry. This is what these 100 buses, the most important is to start with two concrete bus lanes that is related to our new network. One, there will be 2 vertical lines from sea to the mountain, and then parallel to the sea, 2 more. And then minibuses. This is absolutely a a challenge because the small buses, there is no buses that running below the Pyrenees because the consumption during the summer. And then the touristic buses, that a good opportunity to use them because they last only 12 hours a day. And then we have a plan or strategy, but it's not defined because we are working for periods of 4 years. But this is this is our strategy, but there is no money related to these investments. Because we are talking about the price of the diesel buses, the electric buses is double. In this plan, we are reducing, we are eliminating the diesel buses. We keep the technology of hybrid from 2022. And we will buy only electric technology. And we start to reduce the CNG buses. With this is why and what we want to do in the next years. And Ismael, please, we'll talk about how we will finance all our investment.
Well, good afternoon. I hope you are awake because after lunch is not easy. Well, sometimes when we start speaking, we obliged to tell who are we. I mean, Barcelona is a 1.6 million population. There is a metropolitan area of 3.2 million. And our company is owned by the metropolitan area, which means it's 36 municipalities, which the main municipality is Barcelona, with 1.6 million. TMB is the brand name, because we are two companies. We are the metro company and the bus company. We are around 90 years old, the metro 95 years old, and the buses started in 1872 with the trams, and in 1925 it converts to the buses company. So, we move every year around 580 million people, or trips, let's say trips. And our budget is around 800 million euro, and we cover our cost with more than 50%. We have revenues for 420 or 25. We are 8,000 staff, more or less, 4,300 or 400 in buses, and the rest in the metro company. So once you know who we are, let me tell our experience with Elena and with the European Investment Bank. Everything started around 2010, so 8 years ago, and the process was a slow process because we didn't hire a consultancy company to help us, and thanks to Isabel, who is here, and Francisco González Balmas, who was our technical director before Jose Maria. Well, we fight hard with the City Hall of Barcelona to gain that project. What does it mean, that project? Sorry. Yeah. Well, that project is not written here, but the idea, if we're able to do everything we mentioned on the project, was around 163 million euro. So the European Investment Bank requests us a factor of 25 at least in order to help us. So there was a very ambitious project, and as I mentioned, the City Hall was at the beginning very involved, But due to the crisis, economic crisis in 2011, 2010, 2011, we're almost alone at the end of the project. So the main let's see, point is here. Anyway, there were three main areas: the bus network. So we want, as Jose Maria mentioned and explained, we want to change our network from 19th century tramway lines to modern and very easy to understand for our customers and our users. Vertical, horizontal, and diagonal lines. And that meant that we need the help of the City Hall and the planners. So we also have to think about the traffic light system for priority for buses, lines, and also to implement this new network. That means that the City Hall has to change some bus stops from one place to another. In Barcelona, it's a very dense city. It's around 105, I don't remember the exact figure. But we are one of the most dense cities, not in the world, but in Europe. And that means that we need this traffic light system. And that's why the other main point of the project was to change all the traffic lights system. And finally, which was the biggest part of in where we were much involved, was the energy technology in buses. So it was a pity because we were doing the retrofit of diesel. And when we start with European Investment Bank, they say, oh, you have started already. It's not, you have to do something new. Okay. So we tried the natural gas buses. So there was a demonstrator and 12 other buses. And also we have the plan to invest in hybrid buses from diesel to electric. And there was a small line on the project that was to hire consultants companies to help us to find financing solutions. For instance, this morning somebody mentioned about the ESCO finance. Also, we hired a consultants company to analyze the tax system in Spain, the tax system in the region of Catalonia, and the tax system in the city of Barcelona, trying to find how, with the existing taxes, if we are able to get more money for finance this project, or to advise to the administrations to set up new taxes. But you know, when you have to talk to administrations and politicians about rising taxes or create new taxes, you have a problem. So. And also, the main idea, because it was related with the energy efficiency, was to save in energy and also in emissions. And at the end of the project, we were able to demonstrate that we had reduced by around 30% the emissions. And, well, if I say 4 tons of CO2, 4,000 tons, maybe it's not, I don't know if it's too much, but it's 4,000 tons, and also 1,500 tape. Okay, so the Elena facility, when we started, in 2009, Amsterdam says that it took 18 months. Well, more or less Barcelona the same, because as we had no advice from outside, we did it ourselves. So there was different studies that meant to subcontract consultant studies that was Elena wanted, the European Investment Bank wanted that TMB hired consultants. So for the new bus network, that we work together with our TMB planners, also about the new signals network, and this, which is a very small amount, but there were 3 different studies, as I mentioned before, and different studies in the electric hybrid buses technology. And also, we were required to hire engineers or bus drivers, new staff, just to take care of the buses, the new bus, those demonstrators. They have to go from one point to another, and then they have to see if the street was in proper condition, and also from one place to another. There was the official homologation agency in Spain or in Catalonia that required us a lot of effort. So these people work with them. And at the end, the idea was to invest this, of the original study of 163 million, to invest 36 million. And which is the factor that requires the European Investment Bank. So we got, with our own funding, 10%, and 90% was provided by European Investment Bank. So I will tell you something that is not politically correct, but it's true. Is that, well, as our average fleet is around 1,085, 75, more or less. We use a 12-year depreciation, as many companies around. So that means that every year we have to renew around 90 buses. And the previous, the latest purchase price average was around 332,000 euro. And so that meant that, means that every year we have to go to the financial markets to raise 30 million euro. And, well, we follow this, this bid procurement procedures from the UITP, the European Union Public Transport, for public transport, and historically we are getting around, good morning, are you awake? Yes? Well, we are getting a 12-year finance leasing scheme with the Spanish banks. In the past, there were also foreign banks, but since the crisis, all the foreign banks disappear. So, let's say an assumption. This is, I insist. If we transform bus diesels in our bus diesel fleet into a clean buses fleet, only with hybrid and electric, maintaining the size of natural gas fleet, there is an overcost of 85% for bus. What does it mean? That if we have to renew, let's say, I don't know how many when I made this calculation, but the average price was 265 per bus. If I had to buy, I don't remember the name, the number of 100-something buses, it costs the average price 265. But if we purchase hybrid and electric, the average price is this one. So from the economical point of view, it's not rational. But that is what the cities, the majors, are assuming, that we want to be sustainable cities. So that means that evolution and have smart and clean cities means that they have to pour more money into the system. So, of course, in these prices are not included the VAT and the maintaining cost. Well, maybe, I don't know if you are interested or not, but I can just pass this slide. This is how we finance. I mean, what we've done. Normally, as I mentioned, there is 12-year finance. There is companies, financial companies that offer, or banks, renting, or financial operating lease.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Sorry. Okay. Very easy. Okay. I don't want to bother with some explanations, but this is the brief, the summary brief. So we want to pass from around 1,100 buses to this amount to maintain the fleet, and we want to change from diesel to today with in 4 years' time, reducing by 54%. We maintain natural gas fleet, and we will increase the hybrid fleet, and obviously from 4, well, we have already buy 7 more, but from 4 to 116 in 4 years. That is a big change. What does it mean to invest? Again, I'm a financial manager. I mean, I'm talking from the finance point of view. If we invest in electrical and in hybrid buses, there is 29 million additional investment. And that electric buses requires 20 million for infrastructure, additional. If we had to change Euro 6 buses, we have no 49 million less expenditure. So we have to explain very well to the mayor and to the politicians that being sustainable is not cheap. Being sustainable means different exercise, or raise taxes, or raise tariffs, or reduce expenses, or change different kind of expenses. Instead, in the past, mobility meant very few in the budgets. Now it's becoming very important. So for us, it's an opportunity to talk to the European Investment Bank. We are talking to the European Investment Bank for next year, try to get some financing from European Investment Bank. And that's it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, both of you. Oh, thank you. I know you're not right. You're going to be answering the questions, so I'm going to hand it back to you in a couple of seconds. Excellent presentation, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And thank you for keeping us awake after the lunch. It was certainly not a problem. I think just a short remark, and then please prepare for your questions. This is an excellent example of how we engage and how we start with the Elena project, and then we overcome a certain barrier just to discover there's another mountain behind that mountain that we need to climb. And this last comment from you is, I guess those of you who are either working from an operator or city or regional authority, the challenges that the gentlemen are explaining is something we see everywhere. I mean, the cost issue here of going sustainable is a massive problem. We have to overcome it somehow. And from a bank point of view, I can say, well, of course we want to be part of the solution, and we want to engage in a dialogue like we do with Elena, but also on lending facilities. Can we somehow develop a new facility that will be attractive for the borrower, but also, of course, for us, and that can be duplicated across Europe? That's basically what we are working on now. So we are bankers, but we are also, as an institution, trying to come up with solutions that can be used for all of you. Anyway, questions? Oh, the lady here and the gentleman.
You said that depreciation period was 12 years. You use the same period for buses and infrastructure?
No, infrastructure is longer, obviously.
Okay.
Hi, we're looking into low emission vehicles in Cambridge as well. So I was very curious on this slide in particular, all of the work we're looking at that's coming out of our own feasibility study says that you need more low-emission vehicles to replace the same number of diesel vehicles. So I'm very curious to see that your fleet seems to be shrinking over the next 4 years. Is that accurate? Are you going to address the same ridership?
So in fact, there is some mistake in this figure because it would be around 1,085. But more or less, the situation is that unless the public administration give us more money, we will be unable to, with the existing depreciation, change, because we are depreciating diesel buses.
Right,
And we will buy electric buses.
right.
So we will need more money to cover this gap.
But will you be able to serve the same number of riders?
Same
With-
number of?
Riders on your public transportation
Yes.
with the smaller fleet?
Yes. Being more efficient. For instance, Elena helped us. Barcelona, as I mentioned, was a very high density, which means that the commercial speed was 10 or 11 kilometers per hour. Thanks that we move the bus stops, instead of being every 100 meters, to 300 meters. And to other changes, we gain commercial speed. So, as you know, if you pass more frequently, you get able to get more people.
Quite technical. So you are choosing to have an infrastructure, charging infrastructure at both sides of the line?
Yes.
Both sides of the lines?
We have the two systems.
Yeah, no, but the one you choose.
This is one of the possibilities.
Okay, and
To
then
charge in the two terminals.
You see?
Yeah.
At the depot,
And that's the second one.
and then opportunity charge on the
And that's the one that works for you.
yes.
Yeah.
The only one working for you because the air conditioning consumption in the summer.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's the point.
The idea, if the density of the batteries increase a lot in the next years,
Then-
probably the question before about the infrastructure, it will be not necessary. Okay, because all the buses will have enough autonomy to be up. But nowadays, this is impossible. You need to charge in both terminals.
And two questions, sorry, it's short. First one, how long is the stop at the end of the, how long the bus stop at the end to charge?
How long time you
charge.
the idea is the same time, the interval, the headway of the
8
bus
minutes.
lane. If we are, this is a high level of bus lanes, okay, with high level of.
Every 8 minutes there is a bus
Okay.
in the line.
8 minutes less. We are talking about 7 minutes.
Okay.
7 minutes, and then we have designed the buses, the capacity of the buses, the capacity of the charging station with 400 kilowatts for 5 minutes.
Okay, and the other thing is also working for the vertical lines or only horizontal?
Both.
We are analyzing this.
Looking to the future, maybe two questions. Do you have you looked into biogas, and will you, or have you been thinking about doing some health economic assessment? Because air pollution is one big problem in cities. So biogas and health economic assessment. How do you think about that? Or are your thoughts going?
You say gas or biogas? Biogas.
Biogas. We have natural gas, compressed natural gas, and we have one depot and with a compressed station. And the idea is not to mix this possibility with, but the buses can charge with biogas too. Okay.
Guillem Sitges, good afternoon everybody, buona tarda. My question is quite simple. Are you considering, when changing from diesel to electric buses, also to train the drivers to make the fleet more efficient?
Yes, yes. To change from diesel to hybrid, from diesel to hybrid or to electric, for the drivers we don't need a special trainer, because it's like you drive a electric car or a diesel car. No, you don't need anything from the. You go to the concessionario, buy the bus, buy the car, and what. This is important. This question is important because we have to change the profile of the people, the staff on the depots. Nowadays, it's a mechanical people, and we have to change to electronical people, and this is absolutely important. And we are doing this change, this transformation of the people nowadays with training, with the hybrid buses, because hybrid buses or electric buses is more or less the same.
One question over there.
Just a quick one. Alex Auberg, my name, I'm a consultant. A question where I have no clue, but which I would like your reaction to. Is there an expectation that the prices of the buses, of the electric or hybrid buses, will go down in the future, like for the prices for solar panels drop dramatically in a few years? Are there developments to be expected in the future? Because that would be the real solution. So, because otherwise, however you turn this question, you need more money. There's no, it can be leasing or long-term lending, but at the end of the day, you have to repay the loans, and there's no easy solution. The only solution is really a reduction in the cost of buses. So what is to be expected in this respect?
I think this question is not for a bus operator. We agree with you. It's from yes, we are operators, and this is from the industry. Yes, in the WTP, both we are in the WTP association, and WTP is that is involved with industry, and the manufacturer said that they are working for this, but nowadays. The idea is to produce more electric buses. They asked us, why you don't buy electric buses? Why your politician don't push you to buy electric buses? And then I will reduce the money. This is the question nowadays.
I would say that some manufacturers want to change their business model. They want to rent to operators, not everything. So we just pay a monthly rent and full stop. But we don't like that, because we lose our know-how of the business. We know how to operate, how to maintain, and obviously in the future maybe the batteries will be cheaper than now. But I think there is also a big concern about the batteries, because they are not sustainable. What we'll do with them when they are finished? I mean, we will send it to the space, to the moon. I mean, it's something that I suppose that in the next following years, there will be a new technology who will change everything.
We've got in the Netherlands already some examples where the bus manufacturer uses its battery for 3 reasons. He buys them, but he don't put them on the shelf. He starts loading for electricity, and he earns money with buying and selling electricity on the electricity market. The second phase is that he builds it into the bus. After the bus has driven for 5-6 years, the battery capacity will be down to 80%, and then it will be not anymore suitable for driving a bus because it becomes unreliable. And he takes out the battery again, and he puts it in a stationary condition, and he starts earning money on the energy market for the 3rd time. So you see that because it's a new system, because it's a new development, you see all kinds of innovations coming on, new business opportunities popping up. Well, and that probably will lower the price. We had in pilots in the Netherlands, we had to pay for the guarantee on the batteries in the first phase of the project. The second phase of the project, we didn't have to pay for the guarantee on the batteries anymore, because the producer of the battery guaranteed already the batteries for 7 years.
Yes.
So you see very fast kind of
New development.
new development. But what that will do, and you said something about it, what that will do with the prices is uncertain still.
I think that was a very good concluding remark. The finishing remark. We have 10 minutes before the next session starts, and you need some air and maybe some coffee or water. But basically, what Mr. Post just said here is actually maybe some inspiration for all of you to come to me with a new application. Because where Henrietta was talking about this morning about why are we interested in innovation? Yes, we look at innovation in terms of technology, or business model, or financing models, or procurement strategies, or whatever. So innovation in Elena context doesn't necessarily mean technology. If you come to us and say, well, we have an idea, we are working together with a bus manufacturer or a battery manufacturer or somebody else who can actually use the battery outside the bus, well, that might be something that Elena would like to support, because this is a generic problem of the industry at the moment. So I think I will leave that and take the final word myself. So thank you all for coming, and should we give the two gentlemen here a round of applause?